Join us in celebration of 20 years of Star Wars and its special edition release on video. Experience the excitement and uncover the mystery of Star Wars' enduring appeal. See the magic behind the special edition and discover its world of remastered sound and state-of-the-art special effects.
Look, Java, even I get bored sometimes.
The Force will be with you, always.
When did you first fall in love with films? You know, really think this is unbelievable. For me, it was 20 years ago, and the film that turned me into an avid moviegoer was Star Wars. In this programme, we'll show you how George Lucas brought his vision of a futuristic world to the big screen, revised it and improved it for re-release this year. And we'll give you the opportunity to win this life-size statue of Darth Vader and an Imperial Stormtrooper as well. Plus, 10 runners-up will get a special edition trilogy video set, so stand by with pen and paper. Queues around the block. Cinemas open 24 hours a day to cope with the demand. 20 years ago, these were familiar scenes as filmgoers flocked to see Star Wars. The film soon established itself as a hallmark for entertainment, technology, and good old-fashioned fun.
I'll never forget that when the movie started and that first spaceship came over, I mean, I cheered, the audience cheered, and I thought, this is great. Then the spaceship that was chasing it came out, and it just kept going and going and going. And by the time that thing passed overhead, the audience was freaking out. I was freaking out, and I knew what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Commander, tear this ship apart until you found those plans and bring me the passengers. I want them alive.
I was kind of stunned. I was depressed, actually. And I went back to the hotel, and I thought about it for 2 days, and I basically said to my producer, listen, I don't know what we're doing, but it's not really the kind of cinema I think I want to be doing. This guy's making Star Wars. I'm not even in the same universe. I'm not even in the same century. And so in a sense, it changed my whole direction. It turned me around 180 degrees as to what I felt I ought to be doing. And what's interesting is the next film I made was Alien.
We had a pirate, and we had a wizard, and we had a farm boy and a princess, and we had bickering robots, and I thought, what's not to like? This thing's going to be bigger than Planet of the Apes. That wasn't one of my predictions.
Yeah, I was shocked by the response. I did not expect it to be what it turned out to be. I mean, the biggest hit science fiction movie at that point was 2001, and I think it made like $24 million or something like that, and all the Planet of the Apes films and all those kinds of films had done about $16 million. And I expected the film to do, you know, somewhere between $10 and $15 million. You know, instead it did, you know, 300 and something.
Yeah, it's not wise to upset a Wookiee.
But sir, nobody worries about upsetting a droid.
It's because a droid don't pull people's arms out of their sockets when they lose. Wookiees are known to do that.
Star Wars went on to receive Oscars for art direction, costume design, film editing, sound, music, and visual effects. With each successive film, the Star Wars universe continued to unfold. We were transported from the ice planet of Hoth to the moons of Endor, to the swamps of Dagobah.
I'm looking for someone.
Looking? Found someone you have, I would say. Hmm?
We met the wise and the wicked, from Yoda to Boba Fett to Jabba the Hutt. And we dove into the deepest reaches of the Force.
Release your anger. Only your hatred can destroy me.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
The story of Star Wars is the story that has been told 1,000 different ways in 1,000 different cultures. But it's always the same about an innocent who's put through a trial and emerges a hero, and a hero is someone who becomes able to care for something larger than himself, able to give of himself, so his concerns are not personal and solitary, they become about a larger issue.
There was something on this journey that you're going to find. It's been called the Holy Grail, the Golden Fleece, the Ark of the Covenant in Raiders of the Lost Ark. The old word from the myths is the boon, that suggests a gift. It's the thing that is won on the journey that will change the world when you bring it back.
Vader was seduced by the dark side of the Force.
The Force?
And the Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together.
The 20th anniversary milestone gave George Lucas the opportunity to restore and upgrade the films to match his original vision.
There were various things, especially in the original film, that I wasn't satisfied with. Special effects shots that never really were finished, scenes that I wanted to include that couldn't have been included for some reason, mostly money and time. I looked at the 20th anniversary as a way as, well, if we're going to reissue them, maybe Fox will go along with allowing me to refurbish them also. So they agreed to that, and that's really what started this whole thing.
In 1995, the restoration began with a concerted effort by 20th Century Fox, Lucasfilm, Skywalker Sound, and Industrial Light and Magic. The task was more daunting than anyone imagined.
The most obvious thing that's happened is we've gone back to the original negative, cleaned it up considerably, redone a lot of the optical effects, the wipes, the dissolves, and improved the quality of the film, because it was deteriorating.
Holding her is dangerous. Word of this gets out, it could generate sympathy for the rebellion in the Senate.
I have traced the rebel spies to her. Now she is my only link to finding their secret bait.
Darth Vader isn't black anymore. He starts out coming up to a navy blue and then getting brighter and brighter as the film continues to deteriorate.
There will be no one to stop us this time.
Yes, sir.
So we brought in a team of film restorationists to start a full-scale film restoration. The first step was to take the original negative apart and physically rewash the entire negative. From that point, we realized that the opticals, which we couldn't rewash because the dirt was built into the elements, also had to be recomposited.
Compositing allows separately photographed items to be placed in the same scene. For example, the Seeker ball, the lightsaber, and the chess pieces are combined with live action to make up one final shot in the film. Creating composites for the original release of the trilogy required film technicians to physically handle the negative. This led to wear and tear, as well as dirt deposits on the final picture. Today, compositing takes place with computers, but before this technology could be applied to Star Wars, all the original elements had to be located. Some scenes had as many as 40 elements for a single shot, as was the case for the asteroid sequence in Empire.
One of the biggest sequences we worked on Empire Strikes Back was the snow battle, the walkers and the speeders in the snow. All of that was done at a time that we used optical technology, of course, to do all that compositing. And a telltale sign that something's been optically composited is a black line around it. And when you have a sequence that takes place in outer space against stars, it's easy to reach a point where those black lines don't show up. But when you have a sequence that takes place against snow in the daylight, every hint of that black matte line becomes very visible. And so the first time through doing the snow battle here 17 years ago, a lot of effort went into finding ways to minimize that black line. One of the ways was to not print all of the elements at their full opacity.
All right, I'm coming in.
Consequently, when you see the snow battle on film, you may notice that there's part of the scenery is visible through the cockpit, and it was a constant trade-off of how transparent can we make the cockpit. At what point is the black line more objectionable than the transparency? And so there was an opportunity to go back into those shots, use the computer technology, and to eliminate all the transparency, but also not have any matte lines.
Join us after the break to find out how new technology helped George Lucas create some amazing new special effects. Plus, your chance to win in our fantastic Star Wars competition, and I'll have a few surprises for the future too. When Star Wars was made 20 years ago, the director George Lucas's vision was limited by the technology available. That's all changed now, and by restoring the trilogy, he's finally been able to realize his dreams.
I can't hold off forever!
It was the advent of digital technology that helped Lucas finally put on celluloid what he'd first dreamt up more than 2 decades ago.
The digital technology frees you up, especially in a fantasy film like this, in ways that are basically overwhelming. You could think of things, and you can write things in science fiction and fantasy, but it's very hard to make that literal.
George had very specific shots that he wanted to be able to achieve, but it was extremely difficult to do that with models on wires. It was impossible then with motion capture to actually get really quick pans. You know, they had to be separate shots. The models couldn't fly directly over the head of the camera without seeing how that it was shaky. And so although for us, when we first saw it, it was still powerful, it was still big, he never got visually the dynamic shots that he actually wanted to get. So we've redone those. Now you can actually see them. They come straight over camera, they go underneath camera, we can pan with them. That was a real challenge, but really a great deal of fun to do.
Mos Eisley Spaceport. You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious.
And Mos Eisley was one of the scenes that actually prompted this whole adventure of redoing the movie. I couldn't make it into this bustling spaceport that it was supposed to be. It looked like a little tiny town because I only had like a half a street to shoot on and no real special effects or matte paintings to work with. So I've added a few scenes, and at the same time I've taken a lot of the special effects shots that weren't really as good as I'd hoped they would be because they were sort of prototype technology, and I've been able to improve them and just add that little difference, which is, for me, what makes a shot special.
There's been some attempts we've been making just to see how far we can push sort of the digital backlot idea, that we can do more and more work with synthetic sets. And we're refining the technology to make, characters and creatures look more realistic than they have before.
The idea of digital backlot is best illustrated by Mos Eisley. Miniatures and blue screen actors are photographed separately, then digitally removed from their surroundings. They are then composited to the photographed miniature. Through computer graphics, elements such as this speeder bike are created and added to the composite, along with other digital elements like Luke's land speeder and the Ronto creature. These Jawas on top of the creature put the final touches to the scene. Jabba the Hutt made his debut in Return of the Jedi as a massive mechanical slug requiring 6 operators. Scripted to appear in the first film, scenes were shot with a stand-in actor for Jabba. The plan was to replace him in post-production with a stop-motion puppet.
No! Right here, Jabba. Been waiting for you.
Have you not?
You didn't think I was going to run, did you?
This is the original plate that George shot. So the plan was for us to remove this actor and replace him with Jabba. He had to be physically in that space where this actor was, doing all the same things in a similar kind of style. The ultimate goal is to make it look like Jabba was on the set talking to Harrison Ford, and we just photographed it. This project here was about 5 shots. It took about a year to do. We take the picture of some of the stuff we found. We use some of the off-the-shelf software to build a 3-dimensional wireframe mesh. This is kind of equated with taking a canoe without a canvas and building the rungs of the canoe and then wrapping it with canvas. And then the next process is actually paint the creature. And with the painting of the creature, it also involves the actual texture of the surface of the characters.
After the modelling and lighting of the computer-generated character is complete, the task of moving this once immovable slug created a new set of challenges.
The actual motion of Jabba never really existed before. Even in the rubber manifestation in the third one, there was a real sarcasm about him, even though he didn't really move that much. Over time, it became evident that the mass of the character would allow us to make him move like a sea lion. We had to slim it down to convince the audience that it actually had the ability to move. Over a span of how many years, when he makes it to the third one, he gained an enormous amount of weight, from eating some of those greasy little frogs.
We got to a certain point where everything was set, but there was one problem. Han Solo walks around Jabba, and Jabba had not been designed yet. Of course, this stuff was shot 20 years ago, and we were stuck.
Not only did I have to get Jabba close to him, who had a larger mass than this character, we had to somehow shift Han. It would have been literally impossible for him to walk behind the Jabba character because of the tail. So George had the idea, so well, why don't you have him step on his tail?
Even I get bored sometimes. You think I had a choice?
It's not just a scene about digitally replacing, a placement actor with a CG character. It's also a scene now that actually shows the dynamics between the two of them and their relationship. And it's a very funny little moment.
Jabba, you're a wonderful human being.
George Lucas is already preparing another trilogy that will tell the story of Luke's father, Anakin Skywalker, his rise to Jedi knighthood and his fall to the power of the dark side.
How did my father die? A young Jedi named Darth Vader, who was a pupil of mine until he turned to evil, helped the Empire hunt down and destroy the Jedi Knights. He betrayed and murdered your father.
To watch somebody fall from grace at the level at which Anakin does is going to be extremely painful and yet illuminating for all of us.
Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father.
I've been writing the last 2 years. We've got a lot of designs done. It's all moving along. And now I'm going back to direct again, but it's been 20 years.
Beyond the special effects and sounds that have become so familiar to us, it's clear that Star Wars has a special place in cinema history. For some, it's a classic adventure story beautifully told. For others, it has shown that there are no limits to the imagination. Still others, well, they believe it's just the sheer fun of the ride. Well, now's your chance to win these great statues of Darth Vader and an Imperial Stormtrooper, which you can't buy in the UK. Plus, 10 runners-up will each receive a Star Wars Trilogy Special Edition boxed video set. All you have to do is answer 2 simple questions. Question 1. Which actor played the part of Luke Skywalker in the films? Was it A. Harrison Ford, B. Mark Hamill, or C. David Prowse? And question 2. What are the names of the 2 robots who appear in the trilogy? Are they A. Tom and Jerry, B. Laurel and Hardy, or C. R2-D2 and C-3PO? OK, all you have to do is ring us now with your answer. The number to call is 0891 100 100. That's 0891 100 100. Calls won't cost more than 50p, and don't forget, if you don't pay the phone bill in your house, ask permission from the person who does before you phone us. Lines are open until midnight on Monday, and may the Force be with you.